You can translate words easily, but you can't translate the meaning. Tim Donor. Interpreters and translators play such a vital role in our society. They allow us to translate that meaning, to help us really understand what we're actually saying to each other. From the brochure that we're reading on a bus to the speeches that we give with an interpreter, this helps us become a bridge between our ideas and receive that information correctly, which is exactly why in this week's episode of MasterTalk, I'm going to teach you 3 powerful lessons that I learned from translators that you can apply in your day-to-day life and especially your communication skills. Hi everyone, Brenden here for MasterTalk on your go-to channel to mastering your talk. And today we're talking translators. So let's get translating. Number 1, don't just understand what your audience is saying, but more importantly, the context behind those ideas. The biggest challenge when translating languages from English to French to Spanish is culture. When you have a saying that makes sense in English, like break a leg, which means good luck, well, if you translate that into another language, it's offensive. It literally means, hey, go break a leg. And notice how the interpretation changes because of the culture. And the reason I give you that analogy is because of context. Just because we share an idea or receive one doesn't necessarily mean that's what the audience's intention is. Take 10-year-old Rebecca. She comes up to me at the end of a communication workshop and says, Brenden, how do I become a better speaker? Is Rebecca asking me for my advanced booklets on how to speak? Is a 10-year-old asking me for 50 of my top videos so she can binge my playlist afterwards and take a very detailed list of notes and ideas for my videos? No. What Rebecca is asking me is, Brenden, I'm 10 years old and nobody told me that I could be a great speaker. Could you be the first one? So most speakers who hear Rebecca's question, they'll just pat her on the head and say, okay, go kid, go be a great speaker. But what I did differently is I crouched down to her level and I said, Rebecca, I have a secret on how to become a great communicator. But if I tell you, do you promise not to tell anyone else? And she goes, yeah, I promise. Tell me what the secret is. And I look at her and I say, just share your beautiful smile with the world. And I know the world will think you're an incredible communicator. And then her face gets red and then she presents, but you get the idea. I gave her the confidence boost that she was looking for. So whenever we think about our ideas, don't just focus on what's being said, also think about the context behind those ideas. Number 2, open-mindedness leads to a greater understanding of one's own ideas and perspectives that we hadn't considered before. Tim Donor in his TED Talk learned over 20 languages. And the reason and how he achieved that outcome is through community. So every time he would learn something new, he would often post YouTube videos on him practicing a new language and watch a bunch of comments celebrating him, encouraging him, and giving him constructive criticism on how to improve. He would even go out of his way to go into local communities who speak Urdu or Telugu or Mandarin or English or French and talk to people who had a better understanding of the language than even he did, so that they were actually more than happy to help him get better at the language. And this story reminds me of a great quote by Nelson Mandela. And he says this, if you speak a language that a man understands, it goes to his head. But if you speak a language that is native to the man, it goes to his heart. And that's the difference between good copywriting, good translators, and exceptional ones, is that exceptional ones don't just bring out the literal translation, they also focus on the emotions being conveyed. How does that person feel throughout that entire experience? And how do we open our minds to new perspectives, to new experiences, and to the culture of how other people live their lives so that we can make our translation better. Bring that same analogy into your own communication. Don't stay closed-minded into what you believe, but ask yourself, what other ideas can I learn from others? And how do I make the world my teacher? And finally, number 3, being a phenomenal translator is necessary to being a world-class communicator. I admire translators so much because they spend their entire careers moving from one language to the next, understanding the nuances between one and the other, and making sure they get the culture piece right and the emotions right so that the text accurately conveys the main intention of the author or the person who first created the message. But I will argue in this video that skill set is just as important for a world-class communicator like us to master as well. Why is that? Because we are translators, not necessarily of languages, but of ideas. We take the ideas that we perfectly understand for ourselves, and then we need to translate them in a way that somebody else gets it. So we try it the first time, and the person looks at us and goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. So you go back to the drawing board and you're frustrated. You're like, why don't you get this? I perfectly understand this. Why can't you? And you sit back and you say, how can I make this better? And you change something and you go back, you try again, you have dinner conversations, you engage your audience, and you watch your ideas evolve over time. And that's the beauty of translation, is that you never get it right the first time. You translate what you think you got right, but then when somebody whose native language reads it, they look at you and go, you missed this, you missed that, I would have changed this, this doesn't make sense in my language. But it's that work that makes you world-class. It's the number of interactions that you're willing and able to have with the person that you're willing to serve that allows you to create a perfect translation of your own ideas. And by the way, team, this will take you a lifetime to achieve. So I encourage you to not see this as a destination, but rather as a lifelong career and being a translator. Why is that? Because you'll always learn new ideas. You'll always get something new, and you won't know how to translate it right away to your audience. But if you keep chipping away, eventually you'll be able to translate your mind into every single person that you encounter in your life. Translators and interpreters are bridges that connect us with different perspectives and cultures so that we can all live in a congruent world filled with authenticity, vulnerability, and above all, empathy and compassion. And I would argue, if you made it to the end of this video, I crown you the ultimate translator. That should be your goal. Focus on being the best in the world at translating your own ideas to the people you want to serve, and watch the world transform in front of you. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of MasterTalk, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well to see more videos like this. And if you want more information, I would love for you to check out my free communication training over Zoom that I do every 2 weeks. The link is in the description below. I can't wait to see you there. And of course, if you know one person that's a translator who wants to get better at sharing ideas, share this video with them so that they'll be one step closer to translating the incredible knowledge that they have in their minds to the world. Talk soon.